Alabama, they made their appearance at media days on Wednesday as well. And I think listening to Kalen DeBoer talk, it was really intriguing. Not so much what they talked about, maybe more so what they didn't talk about. You know how many questions I heard asked to Kalen DeBoer relative to the talent of that football team? Zero. You want to know why? Because it'd be a dumb question. Hey, Coach, you got any concerns about your roster on defense? No. Now, do you have things you have to solve for throughout the course of a season? Is there a thing that's too much depth? Of course not, but you hear what I'm saying. Those aren't the pressing issues for Alabama right now. That's not what you're talking about relative to how good Alabama is going to be in 2025. You're talking about, okay, well, can they get the quarterback right? That's one part of it. But by and large, it's not a roster question for Alabama. The questions and the things that Kalen DeBoer was saying relative to Alabama and their success next year were buzzwords like growth, consistency, building on what last year was, honing into our own craft and how we do things. That next step, that's going to be the difference for Alabama, whether they play for the college football playoff or they miss the playoff again and we're having a different discussion around what Alabama is under Kalen DeBoer going into his third year, this time next year at SEC Media Days. We had Paul Feinbaum on the show on Tuesday. Great conversation. That conversation is clipped on the YouTube channel, so go check that out. Also, while you're here, like Bama fans, subscribe to the On3 YouTube channel. But he said something that I don't know I totally had clocked just yet. Shout out Bieber. He said Alabama, at a roster level, I'm paraphrasing, is more talented than Georgia. Now, he didn't say Georgia's not talented. I think we all understand the way they've stacked top three classes in Athens, they're talented. But Alabama, arguably, outside of the quarterback position, because we don't know who's playing quarterback yet, is more talented, or at least as talented, as the SEC champs from a year ago. What does that tell you as to what Alabama has to do in 2025? What does that tell you as to what they could do in 2025, if that's true? And again, I think it is. It means that it comes down to all the other stuff for Alabama that Kalen DeBoer is speaking to. Growth, consistency, all those things. Like you look back at, we've said this many times, look back at the losses for Alabama last year. How many were talent losses? Maybe one to Tennessee. More talented than Vandy. More talented than Oklahoma. Took your eye off the ball. And so you talk about the other stuff. Kalen DeBoer, over the course of his career, when he gets his culture installed, not to harp on culture, make this the culture show, but I think it matters. It's kind of what he does, right? 8-0 in one-score games in 2023 for that Washington team. They were talented, right? So was Alabama. Do you have Michael Penix Jr. playing quarterback? I mean, yeah, that's a fair rebuttal. But I think the point stands. When it comes down to those close games, and it's about the margins, it's about one score, is your team poised enough? Is your team internally disciplined enough to go make the plays, have the killer instinct to go win the football game? Kalen DeBoer has had teams that do that. I'll say this too. Kalen DeBoer, look at who he has a undefeated record against when it comes to coaches. 6-0 combined versus Steve Sarkisian, Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning. All three of those dudes, I would argue, are top tier in college football. Kirby Smart is the best coach in college football right now. Look at his natties. Steve Sarkisian is operating like one of the best coaches in college football. Same thing with Dan Lanning. Like, Kalen DeBoer, once he gets rolling, I say rolling, once he gets to that second year, those losses that have nothing to do with talent, I think, start to fade into the back a little bit. All right? You talk about his overall record as a coach in the FBS. He's got 13 losses total. 9 of those 13 losses came in his first year out of place. Again, what does that tell you? Give him time, give him runway, get that culture in the right spot. If the talent is there, and it's there at Bama, I know it's the SEC, but it is top-tier talent, then you're in a really good spot to go get what you want to get done. So as you kind of position this discussion to how Alabama gets to that spot, it's fair to have all the pressure on Kalen DeBoer. And I think he understands that too. I think he signed up for all the pressure and then some when he took that job after Nick Saban. Like, he knows what it is. But it's even furthermore because what I just said, that'll be the difference for Alabama in 2025. And you talk about actual football conversations, it comes back to the quarterback. Who is responsible, or who are we probably looking to most frequently as the guy responsible for how the quarterback plays outside of the quarterback himself? Ryan Grubb? Yeah, maybe so. I look at Kalen DeBoer because that's kind of been how he's cut his teeth in this sport, right? It's kind of been his calling card. Talked about Penix already at Washington, Jake Haener at Fresno State. Like, I'm looking at whoever plays quarterback for Alabama as, hey, you're Kalen DeBoer's guy. You're a Kalen DeBoer coached quarterback. I'm putting, obviously, the pressure on the quarterback, but I think you put just as much pressure on Kalen DeBoer for him to perform. And so one thing that I'm curious to watch with whoever the quarterback is, whether it's Ty Simpson, I expect it to be him, Austin Mack, Keelan Russell. Kalen DeBoer said something at media days relative to the battle because he got 1,000,001 questions about it. He said, all of them have the tools. All of them have the tools. What does that mean? I interpret that to mean as all of them can make the throws we want to make. All of them are good enough in the pocket, awareness-wise, agility-wise. They have the tools, video game attributes-wise, to run our system. So then what does it come down to? Presence, understanding the offense, being fluent in the offense, not just conversational, which you've talked about before, knowing how to get from your first read all the way to your third or fourth read, whatever the play requires. But how do you make sure you have the most prepared quarterback to choose, to go with the right guy that game when you play Florida State on the road to open this thing up? I think the best coaches in the sport make sure they maximize their battles. And what I mean by that is if you had a Nick Saban coached football team and there was a position battle, you knew that not just the best player was going to play, but the most prepared player was going to play. You knew that if you won a battle on those old Alabama teams on your roster and you were the right guy for the job, you had gone through the heat of adversity during that battle. You had gone through the heat of competition during that battle. And because of that battle, you were the best player for that job. Not just you won the job because you made the most throws and the most plays. That's part of it too. But I think as long as you are treating this battle the right way and applying the proper pressure to the battle, you then put whoever it is, Simpson, Mack, Russell, the names, you put them in the best position to be successful once they do win the job. So I think that's going to tell us a lot about Kalen DeBoer's process and how he does things and all that, because this battle, I think it's the most important position battle in all of college football right now. Full stop. If you win this job and you're a dude at quarterback, Alabama has a roster to go win a national championship outside of the quarterback. But the quarterback is the most important position in sports because you touch the football every freaking play. So that's the big thing for Alabama. We saw what it was last year with inconsistency at quarterback. I think it will be Ty Simpson for Kalen DeBoer, excuse me. But Alabama's in that Uncle Ben territory right now, man. Kalen DeBoer, Uncle Ben territory from Spider-Man. Peter, with great power comes great responsibility, baby. Right, Kalen DeBoer, and he knows this. I'm not saying anything he doesn't know, or people in Tuscaloosa don't know. Great roster talent comes great responsibility, great expectations. I think Bama is probably the most fascinating story in college football right now because of that. But I was very intrigued, and I think had the realization today during this media days session with Alabama. I said yesterday, I should say. That will be the difference. Can you do those things for your quarterback, for your football team, to make the difference? Not about talent. It's the other stuff. DeBoer's done it before. Does he do it again? Remains to be seen.